try to think really more broad when you're thinking about using your scrap. Bernay, which Bernay makes I believe it's Bernay, not Bernat. I think it's Bernay. I could be wrong. Hello everybody, welcome back. Today we are doing part 2 of Scrappy Ideas on how to transform your stash. Like I've said before, it is 2025, the year of using up that stash. Let's do that. We need to think thrifty here. Times are getting tough. We can't afford to be buying lots of new yarn all the time. So we need to find ideas that will help us utilize some of the scraps that we have. And I have multiple different ideas today. And today is a tops day. So vest ideas, cardigans, sweaters, tees, all up top. Now I have thought about doing a bottoms version. I'm just not sure. I'm not much into knitting bottoms like skirts or pants or shorts. But if you guys would be interested in that, especially with scrappy ideas, please let me know. I have an entirely other idea of just one way that you can use up scraps without like a specific pattern. That's going to be part 3. So keep sticking around for that. Okay, let's get into today's ideas. The first is a free pattern from Bernay, which Bernay makes I believe it's Bernay, not Bernat. I think it's Bernay. I could be wrong. B-E-R-N-A-T. Anyways, they make a lot of really cool yarn, and they do have free patterns, and they have one that's called the Texture in Stripes Knit Cocoon Cardi. It's a very long name. This is really cool. Now, in the pattern, like when you first look on the website, it only shows it in bright colors. But what's really cool, and I can show here because it's free, when you open up the pattern, it shows 2 different versions. So a really bright looking version and a really, and a neutrals version. And oh, by the way, this comes from an extra small all the way up to a 5XL. Now, with the sizing, it is from extra small up to 5XL. However, it's really in 3 sizes. So it goes extra small, small, medium, large XL, 2XL, 3, 4, 5XL, kind of all in the same category. So it's really only 3 sizes, but if you're in those ranges, then you can pick from there. And I believe this uses a worsted weight yarn, and if I'm incorrect, it is going to be down here anyways, but I'm pretty sure that's what it uses. I just love the fun and funky, and if you put it in a more neutral, muted color scheme, it can still be a fun cardi to make. It's just not going to be like a bright and crazy, but the pattern is still kind of fun and funky, but keeping it a little bit more neutral. So I'm going to look into my scraps, and when I make this, more than likely, it's going to be made in really bright colors because that's just how I roll. But I actually already have all of my scraps being used for something else, which we talked about in part 1. So if you haven't seen part 1 of this video, please go check it out because I'm going to be using my scraps to make a poncho. The next item that we have is a sweater or a jumper, and this is actually a free pattern from Mary Maxim. Now, I've never actually made anything, but Mary Maxim, I believe, is a quite old company that has been making patterns and I think books for quite a long time. And when I was looking through, I was like, this is so cute. This is called the Free On Repeat Knit Pullover. So I guess pullover is just another word for sweater or jumper. I know lots of people use that. But I just love it. This can utilize so many different colors because it's all just like different, pretty much just different rectangles, all kind of jumbled up together. So if you wanted to do just a like stripe of 2 different colors over and over, or if you only have 2 like sets of scraps that you want to use up, you could do that. You could just keep using different colors. In theirs, they use quite a few different colors, which is really nice. You could just have a theme to it or make it totally whatever you want to. This uses a worsted weight. So again, a lot of people end up having scraps from different projects they use to make all sorts of stuff. And worsted is a very common weight of yarn to use. So they recommend just an acrylic Bernay, I think it's called pop yarn, but obviously you can use whatever you want. But this just has so many possibilities to it, and I think I'm kind of excited. I don't know if I'll be able to make this year. It's definitely on my list for next year. And again, it's a free pattern. Next is the Rumble Raglan by Lydia Morrow, Morrow. This comes in 9 different sizes, and it says it's for UK, so UK 4 to 34. I will put in here US what that means because I'm not sure, but 9 sizes means that it comes in a very large range, so you'll definitely get the size that you want. Now, this does utilize fingering weight yarn. So for me, I'm using some fingering weight yarn right now for one of my projects, and that's pretty thin for me. But you know what? Many people have lots of scraps of fingering weight because they make socks and they make all sorts of stuff that utilize the fingering weight, and then they just have all these scraps left over. So this is going to be the perfect top for that. What I really like about this is it's kind of similar to the recent Mary Maxim pattern in that it's kind of like a lot of rectangles, but to me it almost looks like if you took a top that had a bunch of stripes and then you ripped it apart, and you know how like if you have a iron-on top, okay, this is the best way I could describe it. If you have an iron-on top, and if you were to kind of like pull it, it kind of goes like this, and then it breaks. So there's like breaks, but then you can still see the stripe pattern. That's what it reminds me of. I don't know if I'm describing that really well, but when you look in the picture, I think you'll kind of see that like if you took it and it was just like, you know, a regular, and all of a sudden you like ripped it and then like it ripped like that, that's what it reminds me of because of like the stripes within the vertical stripes within the horizontal stripes. So again, it utilizes all different colors and fingering weight. And this one, the one that they make, looks kind of like a crop, and it's right about, it's almost elbow. Theirs is about right here, I would say, but I'm sure you can probably make it either a higher crop tee or make it a little bit longer if you wanted to. You just keep going with the pattern. And again, theirs is kind of cropped. I'm not a cropped girly. I would probably want to make mine a little bit longer just because I'm not much into the crop. But if you are, hey, that's even less scraps that you have to use. So yay for you, right? Because sometimes we don't have that many scraps. So depending on the amount of scraps you have might depend on how long your top is. But I just really like this. This person, Lydia, has some really cool ideas, very size inclusive. Love them very much. This pattern retails for, look in here, 15 British pounds, which says is about $19.27. So if you do buy this, it is a little bit more on the expensive side for patterns, at least from what I've seen. But I think it's a really great pattern. So if you can kind of splurge on a pattern for utilizing your scraps, this would be the one to do. Next is the Whirligig Cardigan. And this is from Universal Yarn. And the person that made it is Afifa Saeed. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. And this is a super fun, seems like an oversized cardigan. And it comes in 3 different sizes, just says A, B, and C. And when I was looking at the measurements, I think it just gives like a back measurement. It doesn't quite make sense to me because I'm used to knowing if it's size inclusive like via the bust inches or centimeters, but this doesn't have that because I guess it's because of cardigan. So I don't know. Take a look and see. You can determine if you believe this is size inclusive and will work for you. But again, it looks quite oversized to me. And so I think it should fit a pretty wide range of people. But again, this is great because it's pretty much a bunch of triangles just all put together. They use 3 different colors in theirs. And so that means they have like a purple, green, and then some sort of speckled white color. And then they bordered it in green. So you could just take one scrap color for every single triangle and really just make a huge scrappy project, or take scraps from just a few different things and then make it a little bit less in variety. And again, colors, neutrals, whatever you want to do, you can make this work out. You could use all different variegated, speckled, non-speckled, whatever. And I think that this could look really, really cute. And it's free pattern. Okay, the next pattern, I have no idea how to pronounce this. Not even, I'm going to look at the word off screen here. I think it's Tìoraidh, Tìoraidh. I believe it is Irish, so I am so sorry. I know I just totally butchered that name. But you'll see here it's Tìoraidh. And this is by Kate Davies Designs. Now, when you look at the Ravelry, that one is just in blue and cream. However, when I first was looking on Pinterest for ideas, I saw this, and I'll switch out the picture here. This is the one that I saw, which was a cream main color, and then they utilized almost stripes in a way, but the kind of star design, I think that you consider a star, they did a different color all along, so that was kind of their interpretation. So that's where I'm thinking you could kind of use the scrappy aspect, because again, you could pick one main color, and if you needed to buy the yarn for that, do that, but then you could use the scraps to then do, in a sense, almost striping this star pattern. So that's where I think the fun scrap idea could come in. But again, like if your scraps are a little bit bigger, depends, some people consider scraps a small amount, some people consider scraps just anything left over from a project, so you might have a big amount left over. That's up to you. This uses fingering weight, so again, this is going to be very drapey and nice, but it's going to be using some smaller needles and very thin yarn, so some people like that, some people don't. And this comes in 8 different sizes, from a 34 3/4 up to a 56.5 inch bust. So a pretty wide range of sizes. And this is 7 British pounds, which is about $8.94. So about $9 US, $7 in pounds. So not too bad. I think that's more of an average for a pattern, and with how complicated this cardigan is, I think that it's well worth that amount. Okay, so those are all of my scrappy ideas today for tops that I think you can use. And again, a lot of times with patterns, you can definitely turn them into scrappy patterns if you utilize like stripes, if you find things that have, different designs on them, and then you could just use different colors. Even if it doesn't show that, you can always take anything you make and just use the different yarns. Like find a way to, make one sleeve one color, another sleeve another color, the body another color, and use scraps that way. Just try to think really more broad when you're thinking about using your scraps. You don't always have to follow a pattern of what colors that they use. Definitely make it your own and use up those scraps, because we got to be changing up that stash. And like I said, I'm definitely working on mine this year. Let me know if you guys are going to be using any of these scrappy ideas, or if you've already made them. I would love to know if any of you guys have made these patterns. How did it work out for you? Did you like it? Did you hate it? What do you think of it? And yeah, keep on watching, because I definitely have an idea for part 3 of this video. And if you want, we can do a bottoms for maybe part 4 of this video. That might take some looking around, because I'm going to be picky. I only really pick patterns that I think that I would like or that I would use. I'm not just going to be making some weird 80s men's, knit shorts that are, I just, no, we're not going to be doing that. But if you want to, we will figure something out. As always, remember to subscribe and hit that bell. I will be doing a podcast update coming soon. I'm actually making some progress on some projects that I'm starting to be kind of proud of. So definitely stick around. Thank you so much for watching. Okay, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.